Thanks for joining us this week on the show. I'm so happy to have you here with us as I'm digging into some tools for resilience and energy as we move into the darker days of late fall and winter. So, I've got tips for you throughout the conversation today to help you avoid feeling sad through seasonal affective disorder and help you feel more positive, more energized, and more resilient. Thanks so much for joining us. I think you're going to love this conversation.
It's time to flip the script on stress and learn how to thrive today and throughout your days. Join me for inspiration and interviews with folks who are shining their light in the world in the areas of positive mindset, health, and well-being. I'm your host, Susie Vine. Let's get happified.
Welcome back. I am so happy to have you with me this week for another conversation on the show. Today, I think it's time, with the days getting shorter, the seasons changing, to take a look at the way that we feel as we move into fall and into winter, seasonal affective disorder, these heavier moods, and ways to lighten your load, to lift your spirits, and to feel more resilient even through the darker, colder days of winter. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're moving into this season where a lot of people can feel a little heavier, losing some energy, and really interrupting their fundamental energy cycles. And today, I want to share some tips and tricks to help you feel energized and resilient through these seasons. So, a lot of ground to cover. I will try not to make this sound like a heavy to-do list. As always here on the show, whatever stands out to you, whatever feels relevant is the perfect place to dive in. So I invite you to listen to what I'm sharing with you today. See if anything feels new or draws you into that area of exploration. Let your creativity and your inner compass be your guide as to where to begin, because I never want to generate overwhelm with these ideas, these tools that I'm sharing with you to round out your resilience toolbox. I'm really here to be a resource to you so that your journey can be as easy as possible. So, having lived in many places around the US, spent several years in Washington in the lovely city of Seattle, I know how it feels when you're living in these northern climates. The days really start getting shorter. It feels like that sunset is just changing day by day, by minutes rather than merely seconds, and you're watching those daylight hours shrink. I remember when I would go to work at 8 a.m. and leave work at 4:30 p.m. and I was going to work in the dark and leaving work in the dark and was really struggling. I have to say, I know why Seattle loves coffee so much. That's because caffeine can be a great crutch to help you through those shorter, darker days and feeling like you're losing your energy. But today we're going to get some more sustainable ways that you can build your energy and your resilience until those days start getting longer and spring beckons us back outside. So I also want to acknowledge that everyone is different. Not everyone has this experience of seasonal affective disorder, of SAD, or heavier depression, losing their energy in the winter. Sometimes people thrive in the cooler climates, and this is when they hit their stride. Everyone is different. And so, just as I was saying, in terms of choosing what tools you want to use, I encourage you to take what feels relevant. And if this is your season to thrive, let us know. Perhaps you can be an inspiration to some here in the comments who wonder how we're going to make it through these next 4 or 5 months until we are well on our way back into the spring season. One of the things that I really want to encourage you to do throughout all the episodes on the show is to become more aware of what your inner compass is guiding you towards, what your inner wisdom is letting you know. So we don't always need to change our habits, our routines, our eating styles. A lot of times we look outside for tools and we're missing that guidance that can be more simple and straightforward. If you're tuning in to what your body really is asking for. Sometimes simple, sometimes smaller changes are better, and they're going to last longer because they're easier to adopt into your lifestyle. So, as always, take what serves you and leave the rest. But if you know someone else who this could really support, I hope that you will share this with them. So, first, let's take a little look at what is SAD. What is the seasonal affective disorder? By a definition, it really is a type of depression that occurs at specific times of the year, usually coming on in the fall and winter when the daylight hours get shorter. It is thought to be linked to the lack of sunlight, which affects our internal clock, our circadian rhythm, and leads to changes in mood and energy level. Some common symptoms are having low energy, feeling more fatigued or sluggish, having a more persistent, lower mood. So if you generally ride around at some level of positivity, some level of resilience, but you find you're struggling with that as we move into fall and winter, that's an indicator that there's a seasonal influence going on. If there's nothing specific in your life that is causing you more stress or giving a greater burden to you. So take a look at how you can address this shift of seasons. I'm going to give you lots of ideas as we move forward. So, losing interest in the things that usually light you up, another indicator of depression in general. And so, certainly, this seasonal influence can also, you can find it here. So, if the things that you used to be excited about doing are not lighting you up the way that you used to, it's time to take another look. Difficulty in concentrating, changes in your sleep patterns, feeling like you have a harder time waking up in the morning, you're more inclined to go to bed earlier, you want to hibernate a little bit. To a degree, that's not a bad thing, but look at this in balance with your energy levels. We want to make sure that you're finding some sustainability in your energy and looking at what it takes to help you feel refueled and energized so you can go about your life as easily and with as much resilience as possible. Weight gain and cravings can come on as well. Sometimes when our body is needing something, but it doesn't have the language to let us know what that is, it could be that we are missing some of the nutrients that we need. And we're going to take a look at some of the foods you can eat to support the building blocks for some of those positive neurotransmitters to help you feel more positive and resilient. Also, during the winter, it's common for us to have a bit of a social withdrawal. We don't feel like engaging as much as we used to. Just be aware of this. And not to say that it's not a wonderful time to hibernate. Sometimes we can take our cues from the animals. We can recharge over the winter by resting up and storing our energy. And sometimes withdrawing and isolating can perpetuate a cycle of feeling a little heavier, a little more depressed. And so take a look at that. If you find yourself feeling more reclusive, and consider if it's time to reach out and strengthen these connections. So, with all of this being said, we're also moving into a season of busyness. I like to call the holidays the holly days, right? We tend to get dazed as we move through all of the stuff of the season. Halloween is right around the corner, and it seems like Christmas is hiding behind the doors. Stores probably already have their displays out. I just try not to pay attention to that. And so we move quickly from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas to Hanukkah, the holidays that you choose to celebrate, right into New Year when we feel pressed to have a plan, to have intentions or resolutions in place. And so before we fall into this daze, before we fall into this season of external expectations, I want to share these tools with you so you feel more resourced, more refreshed, and as resilient as possible so that you can move through and enjoy these opportunities to engage, to be with your family, your friends, and to really make the most of this season. So, some ways now that you can avoid SAD altogether or limit it to the best of your ability. First of all, the trigger really with this change is the change in our exposure to sunlight. Our days get shorter. Psychologically, that's an impact because we just miss seeing the sunshine. It feels like when the sun is up, it's a time to be active. But biologically, the sun is that trigger for our circadian clock. When we have exposure to natural light in the mornings, that triggers deep in our brain that the day is starting, and it starts the countdown timer until when we feel tired at the end of the day. So if your day is starting later, it could interrupt your sleep patterns so that you're not even tired until later in the evening. Or you might just be feeling more tired overall. You might feel inclined to go to bed earlier and stay in bed later in the day and have less awake time to do the things that you need to do, which can make you feel crunched in the middle and add to your stress. So let's avoid that by looking for ways to get more exposure to natural light. Now, the dreaded blue light that we all hear we should be avoiding at the end of the day because it also interrupts that end of our circadian rhythm. It can make our brain think that sun is still high and it is time to be awake. While we do want to limit that at the end of the day, shift our light tones to more orange and even red hues. The LED lights are a wonderful way to begin to transition to more cozy, comforting, calming colors that align with the sunset. Our brain perceives those and says, it's time to slow down now. We can use that if we need to supplement the light that we have at the beginning of the day. So full spectrum light is ideal, but more white and even to the blue end of the light spectrum is going to help your brain feel more energized early in the day. So if it's not possible to step outside or to open some windows and give yourself exposure to some natural light, if you live further north, take a look at supplementing that with some full spectrum bulbs or some of these LED bulbs where you can change the color, make that light tone a little cooler, and help you start to feel more refreshed. I personally love to use a sunlight alarm clock that is set to start lightening about 10 minutes before the time that I want to wake up. I don't even set an audible alarm because I have a fairly consistent sleep schedule. I'm one of the lucky ones in that regard. And so, with that light coming up in the bedroom, I find it easy to awaken naturally at a fairly consistent point in time. This helps to bridge the gap of these later sunrises that we're all feeling here in the Northern Hemisphere right now. Now, using food to fill all the nutrients that our body needs in order to thrive is a powerful way to help ourselves out. Of course, we can supplement if we need to, but the best way for our bodies to take in nutrients is through whole foods. It's the most digestible, it's the most absorbable. And so here are some primary nutrients we want to make sure we are getting into our diet. You might even want to put a focus on getting more of these to make up for the lack of sunlight. So primarily, we're looking for more foods rich in omega-3s, in vitamin D, and those healthy fats that are the building blocks for these neurotransmitters, dopamine, that help us feel good, help us feel energized and ready to engage in the day. So omega-3 rich foods are foods like fatty fish, also includes oysters, seeds like flaxseed and chia seeds. So even if you are more plant-based or even vegan, you can find omega-3s in some healthy seeds and the fats from these. Flaxseed, chia seed, they tend to oxidize pretty quickly. So it's best to, if you're incorporating these into your diet, into your breakfast, get the whole seed and grind it as you're about to use it so it retains the most freshness and bioavailability. Walnuts, again, because they don't keep as well, I tend to keep them in the freezer. They're easy to incorporate into breakfast or bowl of granola. They're a great snack at the end of the day. Protein is a wonderful way to curb any nighttime cravings and help you sleep better because they don't have the sugar content that's going to cause a crash and perhaps interrupt your sleep during the night. So those wonderful nuts and seeds, walnuts, flax, and chia seeds are really beneficial, and even soybeans. Now, as a farm girl from the heartland back in Illinois, I feel passionately that you want to look for organic or GMO project verified soy products. This is not because I'm purely against genetic modification of our foods, That's a totally different topic. But what it means is if they're organic or they're project verified, then they are not given the pesticides, right? We're avoiding the pesticides. If they're not resilient to Roundup, they're not giving Roundup on these plants. And that is essential because the pesticides that could be riding along with these are very detrimental to your microbiome and other areas in our bodies. And so it's important that if you're incorporating soy products into your diet, please do look for organic or GMO project verified products to help keep the rest of your body healthier while enjoying the benefits of the omega 3s, the healthy proteins, even the phytoestrogens in soy products. Being aware, of course, if you're cautious of the estrogen levels in your body, but myself moving into perimenopause, I have found great benefits in incorporating a little more healthy soy and flax in my diet. So, vitamin D is a wonderful benefit. Also, we know that this is a vitamin that we tend to create naturally in our bodies with exposure to the sunshine throughout the year because so many of us spend more time indoors. We put on sunscreen before we go outdoors. Our bodies aren't creating as much of this vitamin D as they traditionally have or as they're capable of. So, looking for foods that are rich in vitamin D is really helpful, especially at this time of year. Now, with the warning that vitamin D is one of our fat soluble vitamins. And so, unlike vitamin C, which if we have more than we need, our body will simply shed or excrete the excess vitamin C in urine, and we don't have to worry about holding on to it. Vitamin D is one that can be stored in the fat in our body. So be aware if you have symptoms of having too much vitamin D, it's always important to have a baseline. So if you have seen your doctor or are going to be, look for that opportunity to check your vitamin D levels and make sure that you're not already high in this capacity so that you can get a beneficial support here. The recommended daily allowance for vitamin D is about 15 micrograms or 600 international units, but you can find it naturally in some wonderful, healthy sources through food that you're eating, the fatty fish that I mentioned before. You can also get that through fish oil supplements. Beef liver, if you're one of those healthy sorts who can stomach that in your diet. Also, mushrooms. How extraordinary that mushrooms, these profound little prehistoric fungi, absorb UV radiation as they are growing and they hold vitamin D for us. So, raw shiitake, chanterelle, and oyster mushrooms are wonderful sources of vitamin D for our more plant based or vegan friends among us. Also, dark chocolate and in dairy products such as grass-fed, ideally, where they also have more omega-3s available to you, grass-fed butter, milk, cheese, whole eggs. We find the most vitamin D in the egg yolks. And so those are great ways to just make sure you're bringing the natural nutrients into your diet. Also, it's good to be aware of foods that are fortified in vitamin D. So if you're consuming a lot of these, then as I mentioned before, you want to check with your doctor, see if you can get your vitamin D level checked to find out where you are in this regard. Soy, almond, and oat milks are often fortified in vitamin D, all of our breakfast cereals, as well as orange juice. So just to be aware of all of the sources where we can easily, but sometimes too easily, be bringing this into our diet. And then finally, healthy fats help us absorb these fat soluble vitamins like vitamin D in our diet and also help us to create the hormones that help us feel better. So, in order to support the dopamine and the other hormones that help us feel better, we need these neurotransmitters available in the processes of our brain and able to be restored and keep on creating them. So these healthy fats, such as cold pressed, unrefined oils, the grass-fed dairy, as I mentioned, nuts and seeds, olives, avocado, eggs, wonderful sources of healthy fats that we can be incorporating. The fats also wrap all of our nerve cells, the myelin sheaths, the nerves in our brain, and running throughout our body to carry the signals back up to our brain. So it's important to not limit ourselves too much in the category of fats because we're finding strong health benefits in those healthy types of fats. Now, All of those to-dos are out of your way in terms of things you can incorporate into your diet, changing your lighting, supporting natural cycles and rhythms. Here are some tips that I have for you to help you boost your mood, right? We want to keep it from bottoming out, but we also want to keep it positive. One of the best ways to improve mood is through activity, even gentle activity, perhaps especially gentle activity. Walking every day can help relieve depression. This is found in research, and it's a powerful, easy way. Sometimes, given the weather, that can be difficult, but walking around your home right now, as people are even putting small walking pads or treadmills under their standing desk for work, you can find simple treadmills if you need to stay indoors, if it's icy or dangerous to be walking outside where you are. Walking is a powerful way to help to boost your mood. It also helps to balance your blood sugar levels. If you walk after meals, it helps to curb the blood sugar spike and then drop, which can cause some more of that emotional roller coastering. So physical activity is wonderful. Yoga is a great way to stretch your muscles and to resolve moderate pain, especially low back pain if you're sitting more because you're staying inside. So look for some activity to help keep your body moving. Motion is lotion. It helps to resolve pain, but it also helps to boost your mood. Now, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that I am a big fan and proponent of the Bach flower essences. They're a wonderful, subtle, safe remedy available in health food stores, wherever you are. But the Bach flowers are specifically a British line of flower essences. And from that collection, some of my favorites to help to support mood, especially in this kind of seasonal dip that some of us experience with SAD, are sweet chestnut and mustard. Wonderful flower essences for helping to lift your mood. Sweet chestnut helps to lift that feeling of a heavier or more persistent kind of depression where your mood is lower and it tends to stay there. It feels more oppressive, harder to find any positive emotions. Sweet chestnut is a wonderful companion there. Mustard is a wonderful flower essence if the heavier moods come and go. Think of clouds passing over the sunshine. Mustard helps to bring the sunshine back. And if you've seen fields of mustard growing, like we have here in Southern California, it really does lift your mood. The fields of bright, cheery yellow little flowers swaying in the breeze. So the signature of the flowers often indicates everything to do with the way that they work on your body. Mustard helps to lift those spirits. Also, hornbeam is a wonderful flower essence for helping you feel more restored and energized. Hornbeam helps you tackle the task at hand. So if you're having trouble getting motivated in the mornings, finding any energy to meet the day, hornbeam is a great flower essence to start to incorporate. And finally, honeysuckle. If you're struggling with the change of season because you are a summer vibe, you love to be outside, you love to be social, you love everything that goes along with that season of summer, and you're just dreading this shift into winter, try honeysuckle to help you release that attachment to the past, to the days that have passed you, and be where you are with more peace and more acceptance. So honeysuckle is a wonderful flower essence there to support you in embracing these days that we are in, especially with all that's in store in this winter season, these holidays and opportunities for social gatherings and connection. You want to feel energized, you want to feel present and connected. And so these are some flower essences that will help you be there to be more present and be more peaceful in the moment. Now, a couple tips to keep your energy and motivation as high as possible. These healthy rhythms and routines. When we let the shorter days dictate our schedule, momentum is a powerful force. We're more likely to stay in that sofa if we sit down as soon as the sun sets and call that a day. So look for those ways, as I mentioned, to start your day as you typically do. Introduce some natural light or some artificial light, mimicking that natural light, but also help to keep your days at that standard length. And then when you're ready to start calming down in the evening, a couple hours before bedtime, introduce more orange and red tones in your home lighting so that your body is following a more consistent wake and sleep schedule. We are busy people. We have a lot on our to-do lists, especially during this end of year season. But remember that your goals can be achievable, especially if we're in this fourth quarter push and you feel like you're really striving to knock some of those big items off your to-do list. If you're starting to feel overwhelmed because your energy is lower, your optimism isn't where it usually is, look for ways to break down these goals. Make them more manageable, more achievable by giving yourself milestones and celebrating your progress. It's easier to stay the course if we stay motivated along the way. And giving ourselves these benchmarks is a really wonderful way to let ourselves see our progress and stay engaged and stay motivated to see it through so you can finish the year strong. Also, as I have been mentioning, it's a very social season, and sometimes as the days get shorter and this sad situation comes upon us, we want to withdraw and go within. But the more you can stay consistent with your social engagement and activity, the better, because being with other people does help to energize us when we're with the right people, of course. Looking for ways to stay consistent. Make sure you're checking in on your loved ones and your friends. Look for these opportunities for supportive and engaging social opportunities that aren't hinged on food that isn't healthy for us or perhaps drinking alcohol in these social situations. Perhaps instead, this is a great season to have people over and have a game night where people can stay in, be cozy, talk, enjoy each other's company without having to go out on icier streets and head through the cities. And think of more ways that you can have people over, that you can have these cozy connections without the added stress and cost of the going out that we usually think we have to do to be more social. Another activity that I think is really fun during the holiday season is baking parties. And perhaps this is one where you bring your healthy holiday recipes. Everybody bakes their favorites and then sends some home with everybody else. So you might bake a slew of your favorite cookies, but then packs them up to send home with everybody. You get to take home a little sampler platter and share your favorites with everyone else. Holiday baking parties are a great way to stay engaged, to keep yourself busy, and to enjoy the company of some of your favorite folks. Another way to stay engaged and to keep yourself from completely crawling back within your shell over the holiday, the winter, the fall season is to look for those opportunities to stay engaged socially. So volunteering, getting involved in community events, craft bazaars, bake sales, of course, if you're in some kind of neighborhood or area where they have some of those small town events. Here where we live north of San Diego, we have some of those, which is so lovely. But perhaps food banks, other opportunities to stay engaged and involved in your community, to support others, and just to keep yourself from falling into that routine of going home, of curling up, of closing out the world, and hibernating. So if that feels like something that calls to you, being engaged socially is also one of the ways in which it's proven that people feel more positive. When you're supporting other people, it is one of those things that refuels yourself. So consider looking for new volunteer opportunities to carry you through this holiday and wintry season. So we covered a lot of things today in terms of light and its influence on you, activity and its influence in your energy, the foods that we eat as we are inundated with all of these holiday treats and less healthy options. I encourage you to look for ways to make sure you're still incorporating omega-3s, healthy fats, and vitamin D to make sure that your body is as nourished as it wants to be so that it can have that energy to call on. Also, staying engaged socially, supporting others, making those phone calls, checking in on, making sure other people are all right, as well as helping yourself to feel connected and engaged. And then finally, my flower essence recommendations. If that's something you'd like to learn a little bit more of, I have a full Back to Balance with Bach Flowers introductory workshop. I'll link that in the show notes and at happifiedlife.com with the information from this podcast. And if you have any questions, if any of these stand out for you, a little light bulb moment happened today during the show, or if you have a trick that you use every year as the days get shorter to help keep your energy and your mood up, I'd love to hear about it. So let me know there at happifiedlife.com. At Spotify, you can leave a comment on this episode. If you're catching the video on YouTube, you can message me there as well. I love to hear what works for you, what you're excited to take away from the show. And I have a special gift for you as well, a brand new resource that I've created called Conquer Overwhelm, a 21-day resilience plan. You're going to find a link for that also in the show notes. And so take a look at that. If you have struggled to be consistent with self-care, with checking in with yourself, with hearing that inner wisdom that I've been talking about, it's a beautiful way to start building the practice of checking in with, tuning into yourself, and building your resilience to carry us through this season that can sweep us away. So thank you so much for joining us on the show. Thank you for being here and for all that you do. Until next time, take good care of yourself.
Thanks for listening. You'll find all the resources we discussed today online at happifiedlife.com, along with links to subscribe to Happified on your favorite player and a handy search tool so you can search all of our previous episodes. Help us grow by leaving a quick review and share this episode with a friend. Until next time, keep on shining.